Welcome to my channel. This is Hot Mess and Hot Glue. My name is Lynn, and I am absolutely the hot mess behind all of the hot glue. In today's video, we have Pumpkin Palooza, so you know you're going to get a ton of pumpkins. I went with a Halloween theme, so I hope you enjoy all of the ideas that I've put together to show you, to give you some inspiration on how to decorate some pumpkins for Halloween. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really does help my channel grow here on YouTube. Lets YouTube know that you enjoy it and to possibly share it with other people who might enjoy it also. Without further ado, let's just get into the crafting. That's why you're here anyway, not to listen to me chat. So let's have some fun making some pumpkins and sharing some of the inspiration that I've tried to come up with to show you how to decorate some pumpkins for Halloween. For our first project, we're going to make this kind of large pumpkin sign. Now to make this, you're going to want to have two of these wreath forms. Now each wreath form comes with a large, medium, and small. And the reason why you want two separate sets of this wreath form is because you're going to need two of the medium-sized wreath rings that they come with, and then just one of the small. So you will end up with some leftovers that you can use later. So it's not a complete waste, but you do want to use two of the medium sizes. And what I'm doing here is I'm basically just trying to position them. I'm really particular about wanting to make sure that where they connect, it's all in one specific point. And I knew that I was going to have a hard time getting it to stay that way, as I was going to give it its more permanent and stable connection. So I go in with just a little bit of hot glue, and I put a dab on each little layer of the wreath just to temporarily hold it in position. Once that's dry, I'm able to take a thin piece of wire that I got from the Dollar Tree also, and I just go in and I wrap it really tightly. Now to help make sure that this wire is nice and tight, I'm going to use some kind of flat pliers. And what I do is I just kind of grab the wire, I use a little bit of strength, I kind of pull the wire, and I wrap it around each one of these junctions. And that's how I know I'm going to get a much more stable long-term hold. And I will let you guys kind of see what I'm doing, because it's a little bit easier to see as opposed to me trying to explain it over and over again. All right, so it was nice and tight once I got everything wrapped around, and then it was time to kind of pick what stem I wanted to use. And I had this leftover pieces of some cut paint sticks, and then I also had a bamboo wind chime from the Dollar Tree. So I just kind of played around with some sizes, and originally what I thought was I was just going to use probably the wood piece to give it kind of a mixed media there. However, as I was wrapping this thicker wire around the bamboo portion, I really liked just the wire portion of it. And so what I did was I kind of just curled it around, and then I wrapped the wire around the top of the metal pumpkin right there. Now, again, using my pliers to make sure that I have a really nice tight grip on that, and then also taking the pliers, I just flatten the wire down so nothing will snag. I had this large piece here that would fit the pumpkin. I painted it all in 2 coats of my folk art chalkboard paint. I also, which I didn't film, was I painted the entire wire pumpkin in a Rust-Oleum Ultra Matte White paint. And I was really digging kind of just the color contrast of the black and the white and keeping it simple. Now, I used my staple gun to attach the pumpkin to the board, because originally I thought I was going to put maybe a sign in the middle and that was going to hide those staples. However, I didn't like it. Like, there was something about it. It took away from like the modern simplicity of the picture itself or the artwork. So what I did was I took a very tiny paintbrush and I used a dab of black paint, and I kind of went over the staples where they were on the black portion, and then I did the same with white paint where they met the pumpkin itself. And once that dried, the staples were completely camouflaged and I could not see them at all. Now, one thing I will say about this pumpkin, and it cracks me up every time I see it, it's just a very There's a very bootylicious little pumpkin picture here, but I absolutely love it. It's simple. It was extremely easy. It took no time and no skill. These next two pumpkins here, I found them at the thrift store. They were $1.99 each, and I want to say they were the 30% off when usually I only do the 50% off items. But I liked the price at $2. They're very heavy, they're pretty substantial, and at 30% off, I still felt that that was a really fair price. I like the design that they came in. However, I didn't want them both to be matching. So I went over all of the black painting and filled in any parts that were missing with my chalkboard paint and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit and gave it just a little bit of a facelift. Now on the other pumpkin, like I said, I didn't want them to be two identical pumpkins. I wanted same color, but not the same pattern. So I went through with one of my little scrapers from the Dollar Tree, and I didn't use it at an angle. I just used it straight up and down, and I kind of just scraped in up like downward motions. And that took off whatever this black material was. It was almost, you could see a seam. I mean, it was almost as if it were one of those like hippo papers that were put on there, something like that. However, it came off extremely easy once I had that off and I had it all cleaned. The design I chose was just to put some simple stripes. Now there were uneven amount of rib bulging ribs. I don't know what that's called. Anyway, there was an uneven amount. So instead of alternating between black and orange, I just did kind of like a crisscross form, and I did 4 of the black stripes. Once they were all said and done, super simple, extremely inexpensive, and I really love their simplicity also. For the next one here, we're going to go still with a little bit of a modern theme. Now, on my last Hobby Lobby trip, I found a really big bag of leather remnants. It was $10, but I got a ton of leather. So I took some of those remnants, and what I did was, because this leather was very smooth, there wasn't a whole lot of texture to it, I decided to make this the base of the pumpkin. So I wrapped the majority of the pumpkin in this Hobby Lobby remnant leather just to give it a real nice smooth texture. Now, once that was covered for the most part, I think I still had a couple little orange pieces shining through. What I did is I grabbed a tote bag that my friend Megan found for me at the Dollar Tree, and it's in this really awesome textured faux leather material. The purse itself is actually kind of cool. It can be like a handbag or even like a crossbody. So I originally used the largest strap from this that would make it a crossbody. I took that off. I took the handbag handles off, and then I just kind of cut long straight strips out of the rest of the purse, and I used those strips to go over the rest of the pumpkin as the second layer to add just a little bit of texture and dimension. And visually you can see the non-textured leather is almost like a matte finish. There's really no shine to it. And the one from the Dollar Tree that has all the texture does have a bit of a shine. And so again, I really enjoyed the texture and the color difference in those two leathers. To make the stem, I'm just taking some of the leftover remnants and I just cut really, really tiny strips, and I wrapped it around the stem that it came with. I then poked it right through that pumpkin again, hot glued it down to make sure it would stay. Now, the stem just wasn't enough. I still wanted a little bit more personality. So I took some white chenille pipe cleaners that I got from the Dollar Tree. I wrapped them around just like the thicker dowel, the longer, thicker dowel craft stick that you can get from Dollar Tree. And I just made some curly cues. I did twist 2 of them, and then I crisscrossed them over each other. And then I needed to add just a little bit more. So taking another piece of the remnant and some leftover leather that I hadn't used yet, I traced over the leather and I created somewhat of a leaf form. I think we all know I'm not an artist. Now, prior to doing that, I'm kind of jumping ahead here and I apologize. The pumpkin itself was just a little plain. And so I thought, you know, I have like a pumpkin basket, and this was one that I thought was had so much character that I wanted it to stand out. And so I attached it to a Dollar Tree candlestick to give it that added height. And that way it would just kind of stand out amongst the other pumpkins that I have going on and the ones that I'm making in this video. I really love the way this turned out. I thought it was extremely cute. That little pop of orange, and I'm mistaken, I did not make the leaves on this pumpkin. It was just that orange flower. Next, we're going to take this garland that I got from Walmart, and it was $4. Now, it's adorable as is. However, I did get one of these last year, and I kind of just like enhanced the colors a little bit, but kept the colors as is. So that garland's going to go really great in the fall decor that I have. And then this one here, I wanted to make it a little bit more of a Halloween theme to kind of go along with the rest of the decor that we're making today. So going over everything, I repainted all of the pumpkins. So the pumpkins that were white, I went over them in Rust-Oleum's, oh my goodness, what's it? The chalked linen white paint. Now that did take 3 coats. On the orange pumpkins, I used Artesa's acrylic paint, and the color is orange yellow. That's all it's called. There's not like a fancy name or anything for it. I did 2 coats on this one as well. For the black pumpkins, I went over them in my folk art chalkboard paint, and those were the 3 main colors that I used. I just kind of alternated between black, white, and orange. Now, I did map out some designs and I wrote them on the back of the pumpkins, and on one of them I wanted to do kind of like black dots. Now I couldn't find my little dot sponge, and so I took them outside and I spray painted them with chalkboard spray paint. So while those were drying, I went ahead and just decided to start decorating these other pumpkins. Now, this thin vinyl black stripping I did get off of Amazon, and I've used it in previous projects before. One of them was like my watermelon video, and I think a lemon video. Anyway, this stuff, you get like 5 or 6 rolls. It lasts forever. It's really, really fun. So on the black pumpkin, I just kind of wanted to add a little bit of a natural element, and I had this cute little witch hat sitting next to me, so I stained it using my current favorite stain, which is Special Walnut. That is a water-based, fast-drying wood stain by Behr. On this one here, I did want to do orange dots. Now, I didn't have this color orange spray paint, or I probably would have painted the stickers like I did to make black dots. So using one of my wood carving tools that I got from the Dollar Tree, I just am dabbing on paint. Then I'm taking one of the kind of embossing tools that you get from the Dollar Tree. I'm using the larger round end, dipping it in my paint, and I'm adding smaller dots just to create a little bit more personality to this black pumpkin. On a couple of these pumpkins, I chose to do some rub-on transfers because if you've watched any of my videos, I'm obsessed with Dollar Tree's rub-on transfers. These Halloween ones and the ones they've come out with for fall are just absolutely amazing. I'm transferring this on using, again, the larger portion of the embossing tool, and it went on perfect because that acrylic paint has a little bit of a glossy finish. My regular method of transferring the rub-on transfers just wasn't working. So on all of the pumpkins that I used either stickers or this black strip tape, I do go over them in 1 coat of Mod Podge, and I went a little heavy on the coat because of the grooves, and I wanted to make sure that everything was going to stand. Not stand, stay. Stay on. I want it to stay the way I made it. Again, I just love these rub-on transfers. I'm so obsessed with them. Like, I'm super excited. I'm hoping they come out with some really cool ones for Christmas. Anyway, back to this. So, I wanted to recreate the garland itself. Now, I kind of went back and forth with different items. I thought about using some yarn. I thought about using some chenille yarn. And I just didn't like them. they didn't seem very strong. And so I had these black pipe cleaners that I got, and they were specifically in the holiday decor in the Halloween section. So they're a little bit less like the chenille ones. They're not as covered. You can kind of see the wire a little bit. And I really liked that effect. It had almost like an iridescent glitter effect. So what I'm doing is I'm going to connect 2 of them to, well, first I take the first pipe cleaner and I string on my beads, and I'm just doing a black, orange, and white pattern. Now, to make sure that the pipe cleaners are not showing on the front, what I do is I thread them backwards. So that way the main portion of the pipe cleaner is behind the little pumpkin. Now, as I was doing this, what I noticed was a lot easier was where I'm connecting the 2 pipe cleaners to extend the length. For one, you want to make sure that you crimp down the like the metal that's inside of it, because I stabbed myself a couple times pretty good and it was not that fun. What I then did was add a little bit of hot glue, and I just ran my bead right over that. So the bead itself is not only going to cover the junction and protect your fingers from getting poked, but it's also going to help make that connection just a little bit stronger. Once I was done, I already had the white beads were already connected. So then I went through and added a dab of hot glue to the end of the black one, just to make sure that once I had them in the position that I wanted them, and in the proper spacing, they were going to stay that way and they weren't going to move around too much. This is again when this little detailed SureBonder glue gun just comes in handy. I absolutely love this thing. What's fun too is actually, just to back up a second, we are doing a giveaway for this video, and we are giving away a detailed SureBonder glue gun, and we're actually giving away their limited edition Lynn Lily one in this really pretty turquoise color, and I will show you that at the end. So here's the garland all done. I just think it's super, super cute. It's simple. There was nothing really to it. This did not take any real time. The only time it took was just kind of waiting for the paint to dry, and you know, as the saying says, that's never fun. Moving on to our next pumpkin, I found this really cool ribbon at Walmart. However, it was a while ago and I had planned on using it in a completely different project. So I had already cut it and I had already kind of like tossed the packaging, but I know I bought it recently and I know I got it at Walmart. I found this candle holder at Goodwill at the same time that I bought those orange and black pumpkins. I really liked the detailing around it, and I just knew that it was going to make a really good pumpkin stand. This pumpkin, I believe I got at Dollar Tree probably a couple years ago, and the little light went out, but I liked the shape of it. I liked that it was kind of a tall, skinny pumpkin, and it was just going to add a different shape to the little pumpkin collection. Again, using leather or the faux leather as the base of the pumpkin. However, this time, instead of using the flat kind of non-textured one, I went back to the leftover strips that I had from the tote bag from Dollar Tree, and I covered this. Now, I did the layer of duct tape, one because there were holes in the pumpkin, but 2, there was a lot of strong texture and a really bright orange color. So originally I thought, okay, maybe I'll paint over the tape. The tape turned out to be a completely like unnecessary step. I'm not really sure what I was thinking. So once it's completely covered in the leather, I'm just going to add the little ribbon details. Again, I just cut strips. Now, to create a stem on this, the stem that this came with was really, really small and understated. So all I did was loop some of this really cool studded ribbon around, and I did a couple layers of that, then took an extra strip of this studded ribbon and I wrapped it around the base of the stem just to create kind of a held together look of the stem. And that's it for this pumpkin. I mean, it's really a matter of, you know, some hot glue, some leather. Putting it on the base was extremely easy. When I removed that tea light, it made the perfect hole that fit so that when this pumpkin sat down, it kind of sat where a pillar candle would go. So it's going to be very, very sturdy. All right, so now we're going to take 3 of these pumpkins. They are the initial pumpkins. And on this first one, I thought it would be a good idea to remove that middle portion, but it was a lot more difficult than I had anticipated. Even using my heat gun to kind of loosen up some of the glue that was keeping it on there, it tore off a bunch. It just kind of became a nightmare. So I did disassemble it, and I decided to try to do the exact same thing on the other 3 pumpkins. Now we're going to be using 2 tall ones, which these ones were in orange, and then 1 kind of short stubby one, and that one was in white. I'm keeping the exact same color scheme as far as the orange and white goes, but I don't like the orange that it's coming with, so I'm using again the Arteza acrylic paint in orange yellow. So I paint both of the pumpkins that are orange in this orange color, and the white pumpkin gets 1 good coat of Waverly's chalk paint in white, so it only took 1 coat. The orange one did take 2 coats. It's a little thin and it does have a shine to it, and so you can kind of see that darker orange undertone, and I really didn't want that. I was really going for this kind of bright and vibrant orange. To reassemble these pumpkins, all I did was take some hot glue and glue them back on. However, to keep it easier, what I did was I did trace out 2 of the middle shapes for the orange pumpkins. They're kind of a longer shaped middle piece, and I also traced one out for the white pumpkin, which just was a little bit stubbier. I applied the scrapbook paper to the little 3D portion of the pumpkin, which is a trusty old glue stick, and I'm using my Dollar Tree vinyl scraper. I absolutely love this thing. I could not be more happy with it. Target kind of came out with their version, I believe it was last year, and I couldn't stand it, but Dollar Tree definitely knocked this one out of the park. It's a very good quality. So now you can see that the scrapbook paper is acting as the accent piece for all 3 of these pumpkins, and now it's time to just assemble them. Before I assemble them, I know I want to paint these little metal words that I got from the Dollar Tree, and the best way that I know how to paint them and to get the paint to stick, a good friend of mine, Kathy Jo, she suggested covering them in Mod Podge. So I just happen to have the matte Mod Podge on my workstation, and so it doesn't matter if you're going to use matte or glossy, because it's the top coat of paint that's going to give you your final sheen. So I ended up using the black chalkboard paint, so it had a matte finish on it. Now that would not have had any effect. The chalkboard matte finish does not change if I were to have used, say, like a glossy Mod Podge. I just used what I had on hand. I did 2 coats of Mod Podge just to make sure that there was full coverage, and then I did 2 coats of black paint and I let them cure overnight. While those were kind of just setting and drying completely, then it came time to assemble the pumpkins, and you can kind of see how I wanted them to be assembled, with the 2 large ones side by side in the back, and then the smaller stubby one will be a little bit forward in front of them. However, these orange ones, I did not assemble them properly, and the checkered portion was kind of off, and so I used so much glue to attach these, and you guys, this glue, it's not going anywhere, and so I didn't want to completely ruin my project by trying to rip it up and recenter it. So my solution was to cut a jumbo craft stick that I get from Walmart and use that to just add a little stability to that bottom base, and that worked out perfectly. Once I got these attached and where I wanted them, by that time the word beware had been completely dried, and I just kind of needed to attach that. So I used a little bit of this JB Weld, and I've used this previously, and as always, it'll be linked down in my description box. I get it at Walmart. It's really not expensive, and it goes a long way. So I know this kind of goes without saying, and I know, almost every YouTuber out there who's going to use hot glue on any metal surface is going to tell you to be very careful because the metal does conduct heat, and so you don't want to burn your fingers. So just a friendly reminder. This is so simple. Again, no skill, no special tools required, and I just love it. All right, so here's the pumpkin that I made those leather leaves out of. So for this one, I had gone to the Dollar Tree a while back and I came across, I don't even know if this is considered yarn or ribbon or what, but it came so tangled and bundled up. And so what I did was I kind of just unraveled it until I got to a big like knot, and then I would cut it, and then I would try to unravel it some more and cut it. This pumpkin could not be any easier. Using just strips of whatever this yarn or ribbon is, I am going to completely cover the pumpkin by weaving it in and out of the hole that was created in the top and a hole that was created in the bottom. Now it's, you know, painted and ugly and all this because this is just a leftover pumpkin that I had used last year and I was trying out carving it and stuff like that. I hadn't bought too many of the orange pumpkins because Dollar Tree was supposed to come out with these really cool black and white ones that are all black or all white. I just haven't seen them yet, so I'm just digging through what I have and repurposing. So I'm not going to make you sit through watching me weave this thing in and out. I popped on my show and I covered the pumpkin. Now, I wanted to do something a little bit different for the stem other than what it came with. So I took two of these witch hats that are just, you know, DIY, paint your own ornament decorations that you get from Dollar Tree. I trimmed them down. I glued two of them together and then I smashed it into the pumpkin and I put about 1.5 pounds of hot glue in there just to make sure that it was going to stay. So again, now it's time to add just a little bit of personality and detail. So going back to the Halloween pipe cleaners, I'm wrapping one around a thicker paintbrush and then I will wrap another one around a thinner dowel from the Dollar Tree. Using a oil-based paint marker from Arteza, I'm just kind of hand drawing out the shape of a couple leaves. And once I get those cut, I will just simply use a couple dabs of hot glue to attach them and kind of position them on this pumpkin. And then last, I wanted to paint it, the stem of it, as the last step, just in case, because you can kind of paint over the glue that was in there and I used a ton of it, and so I just kind of wanted to disguise it. So I decided to just paint it all at once and go over any excess glue that you could see, and just to give it a little bit more of a finished detail at the end. I love the idea of using the witch hat for this pumpkin as a stem because the colors of this material, the purple and the green and the black, and the way that it's like just slightly iridescent, it's just, to me, those are the colors of Halloween witch decor. And so I was so excited when the idea kind of came to me. Now, again, there's probably other creators that have done the same technique. I will say though, I've never seen it. So to me, I was really excited. I thought this was just kind of an original idea. Here it is, all finished, and it's just adorable. Next up, I was at Walmart and I found this really cute kind of already stacked kind of topiary looking pumpkin pick. It was 98 cents. I knew immediately that I had to have it and I knew exactly how I was going to decorate it. There was a Mackenzie Childs, I believe, or something somewhere, and I saw a design and I basically just mimicked the design. Now, they had large pumpkins that were on someone's porch. Now, in order to paint them and to get the color to stick well, I did 1 coat of white Waverly chalk paint as a base coat. The middle pumpkin that remained white, I did do 2 coats on that one. And then using that same Arteza acrylic paint to paint the orange, and then using the same chalkboard paint I used to paint the top black pumpkin. And each pumpkin is going to get its own little design. The orange pumpkin, I was going to just do some simple black stripes. Now, the marker that I'm using here is a little thin, and so I did go back over the stripes with a paintbrush just to kind of make them a little bit more thick and a little bit more noticeable. The white pumpkin, I thought it would be kind of fun to do kind of like a harlequin, checker, kind of diamond pattern, very similar to that scrapbook paper that we used, and some simple polka dots for the black one. And I love the color combination. I love the design. Now, I put it inside this metal pumpkin that I had from last year. I mentioned earlier about a giveaway. There are some rules. What you're going to want to do is go ahead and leave a comment on everybody's video, and I will leave there was a secret emoji kind of floating around back there showing you what my emoji was. So if you leave that comment, if you leave that emoji in my comments, that will enter you to win. You do want to go to all of the creators' channels, check out their videos, and leave their designated emoji in their comments. So we're giving away, and I showed a quick little picture before, but here is that amazing cordless detail glue gun. Now, SureBonder did sponsor our video, and they have gifted us this, so we are gifting it back. And the second winner will get all of these calendars. Just want to say a quick thank you to SureBonder for being so kind and generous, and for sponsoring this video, and for allowing us to give away such an amazing prize. Thank you everybody who watches. Best of luck. I am so excited for whoever the winners will be for this fun giveaway. Thanks again, guys.